Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl, wrapping up the Halloween month with Morbius, the Living Vampire, written by Vita Ayala, Ayala, art by Marcelo Ferreira, and Morbius, created by Roy Thomas and Jill Kane. Yeah, I I really want to get into this because I thought, like, okay, I really want to talk about Morbius, because I don't know, it's just like halfway through the month, I was like, it just popped in my mind while I was going through all this vampire type of movies that I was been reviewing. Which, by the way, please check out all my previous Halloween type reviews, movies, TV shows, comics, all up on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/talkativecarl. Please check it out. Each year I will go through a month of horror type stuff. Things, month of November is a very family oriented type of movie reviews, and then of course the Christmas holiday, all holiday theme. Anyway, it's Morbin time, and I don't care what anybody say, I dig the Morbius movie, and I don't know what is going on with Sony, but somehow, some way, even though it's on paper and by all standards of metrics of a human brain, tells you it's not a good film. Venom 2, Morbius, more than likely Craven the movie, they should all flop by every metric. But by and large, me and a lot of people still like it, and maybe it's because it has some kind of 90s, early 2000s type of flair to it. It gives some kind of like hit those nostalgia buttons for some reason. But the only issue, which I think they're going to correct in the Craven film, is that if you're making a movie about known villains, then it should be rated R by all standards, especially Venom 2, when you're introducing like a serial killer named Carnage. And it's just wild to me. So I think like Sony's probably like wising up and understanding people's complaints. The biggest one being that, okay, we're making them, even though I don't think it was very needed, but you're trying to build like a Sinister Six or something like your White Whale that you've been trying to do for the longest time, then you better make it very, it doesn't need to be like Saw or anything like that, but it has to be rated R. You gotta see them actually legit kill some people and blood flying. But the first time I was introduced to Michael Morbius was in the Spider-Man 90s TV show. It was the first time I was ever introduced to the character, and I thought it was a very cool idea. Just a science-based vampire. He's not your typical vampire. Is not like supernatural based. It's science based. Similar to how Peter Parker got bit by the radioactive spider, he was bitten by a bat instead. But it's just that the mutation, he was trying to cure like a rare blood disease he had, and as a result, now, I mean, he's stronger, definitely, but now he's afflicted with, it's almost akin to Blade, but on like a slightly serious level, where now well, it's just he doesn't have the typical weaknesses aside from needing blood, because he teamed up with Blade from time to time. I'm surprised he don't have like a stash of serum that Blade uses. Maybe the serum that Blade uses is works differently for him because Blade was born a day walker, while Michael Morbius has always been human and he was changed artificially into a vampire. So that, I guess that probably wouldn't, work too well. But while Blade can walk out during the day as normal, Morbius, even though he's not affected by sunlight the same way as other vampires, he's like a bat more than anything. He needs to be able to rest during the day, and light in the sunlight bothers him. Doesn't hurt him, but it bothers him and kind of put him in it's like a hibernated state in a way until night comes up. So let's go over the details of his powers really quick. Pseudo vampirism. Morbius has been transformed into a being similar to a vampire, and as a result possesses a number of superhuman abilities similar to those possessed by true vampires. Morbius is not a true vampire, as the source of his transformation is scientific, not mystical. However, mystical elements have occasionally been introduced into his system, complicating the issue. He has superhuman strength, speed, stamina, agility, reflexes, acute senses. Morbius' senses of sight and smell are enhanced to levels well beyond that of normal humans. Morbius is able to detect objects with perfect clarity at much greater distances than a normal human. He retains this clarity even in near total darkness. He's able to see in the infrared and electromagnetic spectrum, allowing him to see individuals at night by their body heat. His sense of smell is similarly enhanced and able to detect the scent of blood in the air from miles away. Regenerative healing factor. Like vampires, Morbius possesses accelerating healing factor that enables him to rapidly regenerate damaged bodily tissue much faster than a normal human. Injuries such as gunshots, slashes, severe burns heal within hours or minutes, depending on the severity. Though highly developed, Morbius healing powers aren't sufficient to regenerate missing limbs or organs. Fangs and claws. Like vampires, Morbius possesses elongated canines like fangs and claws, able to pierce the flesh of other beings for the purpose of consuming their blood. Morbius can also, however, use his fangs as weapons in very close combat situations. He also possesses a single retractable claw at the tip of each finger. The claws are very sharp, capable of rendering human flesh and bone with ease. I remember in the 90s TV show, of course, it was a kid's show. They couldn't actually have him, he had fangs, actually suck the blood via neck like typical vampires do. So what they did to circumvent that was put these little suction cups on his hands. Thanks for following, Jennifer. They had to put those little suction cup things on his hands so he can. And they was hesitating on using the word blood in the 90s TV show. The theme song literally had blood in it. But, I'm doing fine, Jennifer. But, it always stuck in my head the way, Morbius, says, plasma. I need plasma. And it's always stuck with me. And kudos to the voice actor. But, it's just I don't know. I'm glad they kind of turned away from the whole suction cup hand things. But it's I bought it as a kid. I think many people bought it given the fact that, he's still doing the job that a vampire would do. So they got the point across. But I think that's should stay with this particular version of Morbius, and all the others to stick with using the fangs to consume blood. And he's not an evil, malicious villain in Spider-Man's Rose Gallery. He's kind of like the Lizard, Dr. Connors. It's he's a decent person, but inflicted with a disease that pushes him into doing bestial things that he otherwise wouldn't have done. So he's a very sympathetic type of character, which is fitting for, like, typical like monster movie type stories where it's like a tragic character. I think that's very uh cool. All right, psionic gliding. Through mental concentration, Morbius is able to glide through the air over short distances. However, Morbius can only glide at speeds of about 35 miles per hour. Mesmerism, able to hypnotize people, except those with stronger willpower. Vampire creation, like true vampires, Morbius is able to transform individuals into pseudo vampires like himself by draining them from all their blood. Morbius has control over the pseudo vampires he creates, just as supernatural vampires have mental control over the vampires they create. The vampires that Morbius creates possess superhuman strength, but do not possess accelerated healing factors. Upon receiving lethal injuries, their body turns to dust. So, very diluted form of vampirism, whoever he chose to turn or accidentally turn. Immunity to most vampire vulnerabilities. As Morbius isn't a supernatural vampire, he is immune to all of the special mystical vulnerabilities that they have. As I mentioned about, like, crucifixes, silver, garlic, that kind of thing. The only thing is he's not weak to sunlight either, but he just can't, stand the sunlight. He needs to sleep during the day. Genius level intellect. He's the Nobel Prize winning scientist in biochemistry and hematology. His weaknesses is hunger, because he still need to drink blood to sustain himself. Mental instability. Because of his affliction, how long he's been afflicted with that, drives him to like want to, like, delete himself, which is, like I say, he's a very tragic character. And you'll think, I'm not sure how many stories that Marvel had produced with Michael Morbius where he would have teamed up with somebody, like, at least here in this many comics, but here as well, Morbius teamed up with Spider-Man to help cure his affliction, because Spider-Man is a scientist too. But you got like Reed Richards and Tony Stark, very intelligent, and T'Challa, or if you really want to push it, Doctor Doom, like part of like and then Moon Girl, like the smartest people in the Marvel universe. He could, he's smart in his own right. He can't seem to, after all these years, figure out a way to cure his affliction. And it's like, you have at least a handful of people you can easily go to in order to figure this out and cure yourself. Because I'm pretty sure it's not like the Hulk, where it's like so many years he's trying to figure out a way to cure the gamma radiation. Nobody seemed to be able to figure out. This seems a little bit more doable. And I'm just shocked that, there has been stories where, of course, you still need to keep like a Morbius around, because it's like, he's, he is like a character that people actually, like. He's not, up there with like Green Goblin or Dr. Octopus, but he's, got a fan base. I think he's very, like Kirk Collins, he's a very tragic character, and he's, written well. He can be played very good. But it's just like, made no sense. Like, okay, go to freaking Reed Richards and help him clear this up. I'm pretty sure with, he's easily like, well, at least Moon Girl is probably like, has been classified as the smartest character in Marvel Universe. But like I said, you got T'Challa, Doctor Doom, Moon Girl, Reed Richards, and Tony Stark, all of which, at least 3 of which you can easily, get in contact with, because you just go to Avengers base or go to the Baxter building, or like you have access to certain people, or at least you know somebody who knows somebody to get in touch with people, so that way they can like cure this, you know, disease, and you can be done with it. I'm just saying, it's like you have like options. Anyway, I mean, like the art in this is fantastic. I want to point out like immediately, it's very, 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 very well done. I love looking at this. This comic came out in November of 2019. Ended like I think February or March of 2020. So right when like that pandemic was really hitting us and that lockdown was about to start. And I think it kind of affected, you know, the story a bit, which I'll get into once we reach the end. But we are introduced with the Melter, like another Spider-Man villain. I'm pretty sure he's a Spider-Man villain, because my brain keep want to confuse him with Paste Pot Pete for some reason. I don't know why. So this guy is in Brooklyn. He's messing around with some chemicals in order to, because it turns out Melter here has leukemia that he wants to cure, and of course he's also like, criminal for hire as well. But his goons come running in like crazy because Michael Morbius is crashing this place, and just like in the movie where he goes into that criminals, those low rent thugs hideout and chase them off, is like no challenge for him whatsoever. So it's like a freaking horror movie. So like look at the artist rendering. This is like very well done. I like the look of this. So he didn't kill any of these guys, but he's seriously wounded a lot of them. And the Melter tried to go toe to toe with Morbius. Really ain't no challenge. So he handed his ass. But in previous adventures, just to lead up to why he's crashing this hideout, Morbius in a previous adventure, kind of like with Venom back in the day, where he moved to San Francisco and established like a foothold where he's saving the homeless from evildoers his own way. He just staying away from Spider-Man, so he can be an anti-hero in his own right. Kind of doing the same thing here with Morbius, still in New York, but a different part of New York, where he's helping out people who've been driven out of their homes by these fat cat developers. Even though that was resolved, I don't know the full story, but ended it where it's like not really a happy ending for Morbius. And as a tragic character, he probably doesn't always get that many happy endings. So now he's breaking into criminals' hideouts, that have lab facilities, so that way he can jerry-rig an antidote for his cure. And he does like a very stupid thing, but it's out maybe desperation and a rush. But he put together a serum and he drank it, or not drank it, but he just put in a syringe and injected it himself. He didn't bother to test it, and this could be his tragic downfall for a minute, where it seemingly cured him, because he got his some color into his skin again. But things turned really bad when now it's actually heightened the vampirism rather than eradicating it. And turns out that he didn't account for that because he didn't bother to test it. He just was so eager to just cure it, he just didn't care. But then we're introduced to this character named Elizabeth, Nikos, who has a complete grudge against Michael Morbius, even to the point where she ends up teaming up with the Milter to try to eradicate Michael Morbius. And who is Elizabeth? Well, if you remember watching the movie, there's this this old scientist guy that is like a mentor to Michael and his friend named Emil. So this is his sister, and Emil in this comic, at least maybe for a time period, definitely in this adventure, Emil has died because he tried desperately to help cure his friend of his rare blood disease. This is way before the whole situation with turning himself into a living vampire, or at least around that time. The movie's pretty much is kind of like similar with the terms of timeline wise, but Elizabeth blames him for the death of his her brother because he was sick himself and tried to test the compound on himself, which accelerated his death essentially. So now you see Michael, his bat-like features are just further enhanced at this point. And I love the whole droopiness of like this cape-like structure, whereas it's very Dracula-esque. I think man, that is very cool looking. So then Elizabeth shows up with Melter, ready to go 2-on-1 with Michael, but she made a stupid mistake by using a grenade to try to completely eradicate Morbius, even though he's trying to figure out who this lady is, because he's been like this for so long. He doesn't know, because he has attacked and hurt people, so he doesn't know who she might be connected to that he feels like he might have hurt, and he's trying to say he's sorry, that wasn't me, but then he comes to realize, oh, this is Elizabeth, this is my friend's sister. So when she threw the grenade, it launched Morbius outside the building, which he made him escape, and he goes to this blood bank to try to satiate his hunger. He knocked out the guards. One of them has to wake up and ring the alarm, which eventually brings the attention to Spider-Man. When I first read this, I didn't expect to see Spider-Man. When you're dealing with one of his rogues gallery being the main focus, you should probably barely see any of the main hero involved in the story based on Killmonger. I'm about to say Killmonger, based on Morbius, because I'm thinking about Killmonger comic that I reviewed a year ago, which, by the way, you should check it out, because I reviewed it like not this last February, but the last February during Black History Month. Spider-Man shows up and tries to calm things down and avoid Michael from hurting anybody else. He's literally got a guard by the freaking throat, ready to bite him. Even though he spent the earliest parts of the first issue quoting Aristotle, which apparently is his favorite person, and he ponders, how would somebody like that view me? What words would he use for me? Would it be tragic or hate or what? He tends to get a very, over physiological boundaries, or So of course, in many occasions, Spider-Man's blood is able to uh I don't want to use the word fix, but definitely like drew back the vampirism to a significant degree, and he has all his faculties. Uh, so both Black Cat and Spider-Man beat these guys. Not Black Cat. Did I say Black Cat? Sorry, it's been a long day. Uh, so Spider-Man ends up fighting with Morbius, despite him saying like, "I will help you," just relax. Once he got his blood in him, that's where like Morbius actually can think clearly. And so they made a deal where Morbius promised to not, go after human beings whatsoever, because normally he goes after the bad guys and drink from them. But he said, he's like, Scott's honor, I will not, attack anybody if you help me with this. Then you get a little backstory with Elizabeth, where after the death of her brother, she signed up for the army, and then met up with some vampire hunters, and she just like eventually grew to be like a just huge, big badass. All at the same time, while Spider-Man and Morbius are getting kind of frustrated when they try to actually test out the virus, see if it's doable to cure the vampirism part. And oh, what else? Of course, they end up bickering at each other, given the fact that okay, as we've been at this for hours, let's reconvene tomorrow once we get some rest. And of course, Morbius ain't trying to hear that. He wants to do it now. Get out of the way now. Of course, Spider-Man's trying to, nicely let him know, dude, we've been at this for hours. I need sleep. I need to eat. And I know you can definitely sleep. So let's just reconvene tomorrow. Of course, he doesn't have that kind of patience, and he starts telling Spider-Man, have you been in a position where you want to cure your life from a horrible disease or something like that, and you have the power when you not lollygag around until it gets done? And then he starts reminiscing of the time when Spider-Man first turned into the Man Spider, who the 90s kind of explained it, where it's like his powers are kind of in flux, just like in Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man 3, where his powers are in flux is either more so a conscious thing. I was about to say something else, but so he Michael pleads to Spider-Man, like, let me draw your blood so we can have like, some kind of baseline and see how to cure you. And of course, he hesitates because as soon as he draws blood and puts it through the computer, they'll be able to tell him who exactly is under that mask, which he really doesn't want to do that. But of course, Michael promises to him, like, I won't look at anything, I won't abuse this trust. And kudos to Morbius, he didn't turn like a about face. He get the everything flowing. Elizabeth shows up. You get to see her backstory about the good times she had with her brother and Michael. They were like inseparable. And then of course they got their diseases and everything like that. So she resigned to make sure that they are still entertained, which is very nice of them. But then you see, like, after the whole situation with Morbius, she became part of this cult essentially. Well, this kind of reminds me of the in Batman, the Court of Saint Dumas, this like religious zealots. Um, these hunters kind of seem like that, and uh, Elizabeth desperately trying to, you know, get herself to peak fighting form when it comes to hunting vampires. Um, all the while this going on, Melter is testing out his, because he mentioned how he got like actually a degree in uh it was like, you know, bio, but just, you know, uh what I was gonna say, yeah, he's testing it on his, you know, allies. So now uh Morbius, Liz, and Spider-Man have to go after the Melter after he changed. It's kind of reminds me of not Bebop and Rocksteady, but Tokar and Razor and Ninja Turtles: Secret of the Ooze, where these, you know, grotesque creatures, you know, and the way they come out just reminds me of that movie for some reason. And I was waiting for them to say like, "Mama, oh, mama," something like that. It got kind of funny. Um, of course, you know, he was working with Elizabeth to track down Morbius, but completely gave up, you know, after he tried to renege of the deal that they have. So she just called it, you know, the contract terminated. He trying to negotiate for more crap, and that wasn't flying. But now he got his own little animal army, and pretty much like you know, animals running, not animals, but like human animal hybrid are just like, you know, they can't have them running loose. So uh excuse me, let me get some water. Michael managed to plead his case to Liz, even though he keeps telling her like it's not my fault. You know, I love, you know, uh uh what's his name, Emil too. It's like, you know, I'm hurting just like you're hurting. Of course, like earlier in the comics, you mentioned how like there's no scenario where like basically it's like, oh, there's no scenario where like I see a picture of you or whatever like that and it makes me feel like, oh, like all is forgiven. There's none of that, which is, you know, kind of like, because it doesn't completely absolve uh uh absolve anybody from any type of guilt, but she can see that Melter been paying this ever since it happened, and he's definitely trying to cure it. He's not reveling it at all. So um this is part where like you see like Spider-Man's blood, it's like kind of give him some sense of you know, what's going on, and not, you know, succumbing to the beast. But then they get word about what uh Emil is doing, so all three team up, crash the, almost the same warehouse building, crash inside, beat up all these like goons who are these animals that they didn't ask for any of that stuff. And I kind of hope um uh crap, I was about to say make a comment about like stepping on somebody, whatever. Like I said, it's been a long day. I'm, trying to like get through this. Luckily, it's short. So all three teamed up to take on these monstrosities that give me Tokar and Razor vibes. I'm sorry, it just does. That's all I was thinking about when reading this. It's like, man, I kind of want to watch Secret of the Ooze at this point. So all the while they're trying to take down these guys. These two, Spider-Man and Elizabeth, are stalling so Michael can try to make a serum, because the one he brought, he tried to cure these guys with, that he was going to use on himself, doesn't work because there's like some kind of baseline or something like that that happened with Morbius to allow the affliction to turn on what he is. Certain miscalculations can result into all these creature animals, and he managed to get the serum together. Then he starts injecting all these animals or humans, and they end up what was I about to say? They end up turning back human. Of course, they're going to jail, but they, the guys look up and notice that Emil is gone. So it's like, that's, so far that's that for her. Man, I kind of hope, because Melter turns into this kind of dog human. I'm like, man, I expected something, because I remember in Batman Beyond doing the whole splices, if you remember that, where people like, get like, eyes of a cat or something like that. The head of the company who made all that turns out to be this giant chimera, these appendages from various different types of animals. All that just reminded me of stuff that I haven't thought about in years. So the Mazicure Melter is being brought back. I mean, like, the design here of, like, uber vampire Morbius, I cannot rock with it. I don't know, because we know what his outfits look like, and it enhances his look. Here he's like darn near half naked, and I mean, like, the color and inks and everything like that involved, works, but it's just that, I don't know, it doesn't scream any kind of icon to me. But yeah, like I said, Elizabeth dipped out there as soon as he can. Now kind of question everything, because she literally like had to discard a card in order to be able to use a card to allow her to see everything you got, but didn't turn out that way. So Spider-Man offers Michael to, like, hey, like, I can help you with this kind of thing. You gotta do is trust me. Oh, he had to utilize Spider-Man's blood earlier as the part of a potential cure, given the fact that his blood, for some reason, the only one is able to suppress his vampirism. And he sits at the table, watches the game or something like that. I'm saying, like, God, what am I talking about? Like I said, I'm tired. Like, it's been a long day. Sorry. It's not what I want the last review of Halloween month to go. Well, I was in the middle of saying that yeah, I like the look for the most part of Michael Morris, but I think I prefer him in his, like, iconic clothes or some kind of trench coat kind of thing. Oh yeah, the blood. He and Spider-Man had like a little tiff, given the fact that he doesn't want to give. That's why he refused to go to hospitals, because they have to draw blood, because he doesn't want nobody figuring out he's Peter Parker, especially not somebody who's part of Rose Gallery. And at a drop of a hat, I won't say a drop of a hat, but if something happens where he is blood starved, he could easily give up anything just for a drop of blood. Can't run the risk of that. So he just made Michael a promise that he will not look it up or ask where it came from or anything like that. Just test the doggone thing to make sure it's lead to a possible cure. It is, but not for Morbius, tragically. And of course, like during the whole kerfuffle, Elizabeth takes off, not even like saying words to Morbius, but she understands now, given the fact that she sees the man behind the vampire, that, you know, none of it's his fault. He's not the monster she, you know, wants him to be. Where she actually is reminded about why, you know, her brother and Morbius was like the three musketeers, and he would probably wouldn't want her to try to harm Morbius of something he had no control over. So the story ends, and you know, he's still a vampire, hunt down bad guys, and still on the search for a cure. But the way it ends, it leaves on like a to be continued, and that's where the whole, you know, lockdown period came into play, because I figured while this was carrying on, not sure how many issues it was intending to have, maybe 6, maybe 10, who knows. But it's just that the pandemic kind of like might have screwed this a bit, but I don't know, they still managed to still get comics out here and there. But man, they needed to, like, you know, wrap this up, how this end, or at the very least, if this is supposed to be the end, why you type in to be continued? Because it leads me to believe the book's going to get canceled. But if it's not, like, it's been darn near 2 years at this point, why didn't you just try to come back and tighten this up a bit instead of leaving it out unresolved? Or it's felt resolved to me, you know, but it looks like it was intended to have like a, you know, 2-3 arcs that he'll end up being on, given the fact of how it ends. It could have ended it. I mean, like, you had the best of both worlds, because, you know, obviously nobody came back to it, and for all intents and purposes, you know, this is the end, at least for this particular arc. I tried looking it up, see where, oh, did they carry on in other books written by somebody else? Turns out, nah. And I don't think, maybe because Morbius just doesn't sell like that. I bet you it will once that, well, I assume there should have been like a spike in sales. I'm assuming, I don't know for certain. A spike in sales for Morbius comics after the movie was first announced. So, you know, game developers, not game developers, but like movie directors, you know, like the comic book industry, you can probably learn a little something from the Hollywood industry, where it's like, I lost my train of thought. It's like, man, like I said, I'm sorry, it's been a long day. I probably should be ending this video soon anyway, but that's pretty much the story. It's like, you know, they should have, my biggest gripe is the fact that they, you know, left it, and I blame the pandemic. It's like, I really like to use that as any type of excuse, because they still managed to check out some comics, you know, despite the lockdown period. So they could have, like, you know, tightened up another issue to feel complete with the text, the end. Because, like, I checked other comics, I can't find any type of comic that picks up after this at all, and see like what carried on. Even the closest one I found is the one he's about to deal with his old friend Emil, who's not dead, but it's only one issue that came out in 2021, and like in spring of 2021, I think. I'm like, wow, this is Morbius, you know, comics does not sell. But this brings it back to what I was stating earlier before I lost my train of thought. It could, comic book industry can learn a thing or two, because once, from like Hollywood, because once things get popular, that's when because normally I'm gonna avoid this kind of stuff. It's not something like I like typically, where it's like, oh, a movie's coming out or a TV show comes out, let's get some writers involved and start chucking out Morbius left and right. And you might let's get Tom King or Jim Lee on Morbius. And like, when they don't want to write Morbius, and certain things you just can't force people to write if they have no freaking passion behind it. I already made like a point in different video where it's like, a group of staff and you just gather a bulk of here and there people, or it's like, okay, you bulk work on Morbius, you bulk work on Black Panther, you bulk work on Hawkeye, and things like that. Or at least, well, have like a raise your hand, who want to work on Hawkeye, and you have like a few people, okay, you guys work on some Hawkeye stuff. That way it'll feel good and generous, because then you have some legit story, and you can feel that when you're reading. It doesn't, because you read comic books long enough, you can tell the earnest in the writing, getting affected how meaty and complete a story is when you get certain people involved that really want a story to tell about something like Moon Knight or Black Panther, rather than getting Joe Smo, who's there for like less than a year, and forcing him to write a story about Squirrel Girl where he has no idea about Squirrel Girl or Laureus or anything like that. You just force him writing something that's probably gonna be half-assed, probably, and it doesn't always work that way, but probably gonna be half-assed because you getting a writer involved, and making up a story that they don't know how to make a particular story about a character they don't know or have any interest in. Although it is their job, so like their commander-in-chief saying like, hey, I need you to write this Hawkeye story. I want like 5 issues. You got 5 months, try to get it done. And so even if you have no passion for it, use your creative juices. You're a writer, you get paid to do this. Come up with some legit stories. Anyway, I'm kind of ranting at this point, but the story is really good. I think it maybe it's a typo, I'm not sure, but I think this is a complete story here from issue 1 to 5 done. A nice little story of Morbius and his point of view. It's cool to see Spider-Man involved, but I don't think he would have been needed for the complete, because it's like it's like the whole Mando Boba Fett thing, where it's like the story is about Boba Fett, but here comes Mando, who people now got all their focus towards to. And it's kind of like this here, where it's like this is a story about Morbius, but halfway through Spider-Man shows up. Now it's kind of like no different than any other like Spider-Man adventure. It's just the fact that we never see Spider-Man's face, we don't see Peter Parker or his like own narration box either. It's like, no, this is not his story, which is cool touch, where it's like you get inside Emil's head, I mean not Emil, Elizabeth's head, Morbius' head, or even Melter's head. You get inside their heads. You don't get inside Peter Parker's head at all. He is like in an observer or a helper. But it still kind of feels like no different from any other Spider-Man adventure, that in this Rogue of the Week is Morbius. Without the whole, earlier stuff, that's how we would have all been feeling. But anyway, that was my biggest gripe. Not biggest gripe, but small gripe, where it's like, could just leave out Spider-Man and have Morbius team up with Elizabeth to take it, stop Melter from his little crusade. You didn't really need to get Spider-Man involved in this, but you probably just did that just to boost up sales, because Morbius on his own more than likely isn't like a top seller. But you had like a movie. Well, yeah, you had a movie where it was already hinted at a movie about Morbius was coming out. So it's only on the customers to, like, if you want this particular story to do well, go out, buy the comic, support it with your dollar. But anyway, like, I kind of yammered on long enough. That is the last of the comic book review, Halloween theme review. Halloween theme review in general is done. Now, next week, because I'm gonna try to, like, do some light break this week. Tomorrow I'm not streaming. Don't know about the day after, but I'm gonna try to, like, take a necessary break. But next month will be very family oriented type of films to review in the theme of Thanksgiving month. And I'll get back into my TV show reviews. I got to go through season 2 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal and get back to some X-Men comics, the team books this time. Already got through all the solo stuff. So look forward to those. But anyway, like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, share this with your friends. I will see you all later on, maybe to play a little bit of Overwatch, because like I said, like, it's been a long day and I do kind of feel beat. We'll see. If you're following on Twitter or on Twitch especially, you know where I'm live. So if I actually got the because I gotta eat too, that's another thing. Probably give me the energy needed to truck on through for like 40 minutes of playtime. 40 minutes of playtime of Overwatch. Then later on in the week, I'll get back to Spider-Man 2 on the PS5. But I just posted the latest videos of my gameplay. So, I'll try to put in as much stuff as I can so that way you guys are satisfied while I take like a little mini break tomorrow, the next couple of days. Anyway, take care. See y'all later. Peace.